Most people believe that once you see the system, you're free. That's the lie. Seeing the system doesn't free you. It actually does something far more dangerous. It makes you aware without making you powerful. And awareness without power is just a new kind of prison, because now you know you're being controlled, but you're still stuck inside it. You can see the walls, you can describe the walls, you can explain exactly how the walls were built, but you're still inside the room. And today I'm going to explain why most people wake up, understand everything, and still never escape. This isn't about motivation, it's not about discipline, it's not about wanting it bad enough. This is about something much deeper, something psychological, something structural, something designed. Because once you understand this, you'll realize something uncomfortable. Most people who see the system actually become easier to control. And if you're not careful, awareness will trap you more effectively than ignorance ever could. Stay with me, because this is the part almost everyone gets wrong. Here's the first trap. Awareness feels like progress, but most of the time it isn't. It's a sedative. The moment someone learns how the system works, money, work, status, time, attention, incentives, they feel smarter, they feel ahead, they feel like they've escaped something. But nothing has actually changed. Their income didn't change, their leverage didn't change, their control over time didn't change. Only their identity changed. They went from unaware participant to aware observer. And the system loves observers. Observers don't disrupt anything. They watch, they analyze, they comment, they share posts, they agree, they consume content about escaping the system while staying perfectly inside it. This is why the internet is full of people who can explain exactly what's wrong with the world and still live the exact same life they did 5 years ago. Awareness becomes a substitute for action, a mental checkbox. I get it now. I see how it works. I understand why things are this way. And that understanding creates relief. Relief is dangerous, because relief, people stop moving. The system doesn't fear people who understand it. It fears people who move anyway. This is the part that surprises people. The system does not fear intelligence. It doesn't fear smart people. It doesn't even fear informed people. It fears disruption. A smart person who doesn't act is harmless. A smart person who overthinks is harmless. A smart person who waits for perfect conditions is harmless. In fact, intelligent people are often easier to control. Why? Because they can rationalize staying stuck. They don't say they're scared. They say they're being patient. They don't say they're avoiding risk. They say they're still learning. They don't say they're frozen. They say they're waiting for clarity. They want to do things the right way. They want to be prepared. They want to make the perfect move. And the system loves that language. It sounds responsible. It sounds mature. It sounds intelligent. But it leads to the same place every time. No movement, no leverage, no threat. The system isn't broken. It's filtering. And it filters out people who never cross the line from understanding to execution. Here's the real reason most people freeze after they wake up. Movement changes identity. The moment you act, you stop being an observer. You become visible, and visibility is terrifying. When you move, you can be judged. When you build, you can be criticized. When you try, you can fail publicly. Staying aware but inactive lets you protect your self-image. It lets you say, I could do it if I wanted to. That sentence is poison, because it allows you to feel superior without being effective. It lets you feel potential without responsibility. And potential feels safe. Action does not. The system rewards people who stay in potential because potential never disrupts anything. There's another layer to this that almost nobody talks about. Once you see the system, you realize something uncomfortable. There is no authority coming to save you. No permission slip, no moment where someone taps you on the shoulder and says, now it's your turn. And that realization creates a new fear, responsibility. Because if you see the system and still stay where you are, you can't blame ignorance anymore. You can't blame school. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame society. It becomes your move. And most people don't want that weight. So instead they turn awareness into entertainment. They binge content about money. They watch videos about freedom. They scroll threads about escape. They stay mentally stimulated while remaining physically static. And the system loves this because attention without action is the cleanest form of control. This is why outrage is encouraged. Anger feels like power, but it doesn't require movement. You can be angry from your couch. You can be outraged without changing anything. You can scream about corruption while clocking in on Monday. The system tolerates anger. It even benefits from it, because anger drains energy without creating leverage. The moment anger turns into organization, execution, or independence, it becomes dangerous. So outrage is fed, but agency is not. Let's talk about the real bottleneck. Fear doesn't stop people, identity does. Most people aren't afraid of failing. They're afraid of becoming someone they can't return from. Because once you act, you can't unsee yourself acting. Once you try and fail, you're no longer someone who never tried. Once you take responsibility, you can't pretend you're powerless. And that destroys the old identity, the identity that was protected by excuses, the identity that stayed clean, the identity that said someday instead of now. So people stay frozen, not because they're incapable, but because movement would collapse the story they've been telling themselves. The system is designed to keep you just informed enough to feel intelligent, but not empowered enough to become independent. It gives you explanations, not exits. It gives you narratives, not leverage. It gives you knowledge, not control, because knowledge without execution feels like growth while producing nothing. And most people never notice the difference. Here's the brutal truth. The system doesn't collapse when people wake up. It collapses when people build alternatives. When people create income streams that don't require permission. When people reduce dependence on a single paycheck. When people stop trading time for survival. When people stop asking what's allowed and start asking what works. That's the line. And most people never cross it. This is why the system encourages endless preparation. Courses, videos, frameworks, threads, breakdowns. Learning feels productive, but learning without application is a loop, a very profitable loop. Because the moment you start executing, you stop consuming as much. You stop being a customer, so you're kept just one step away from action. Always one more thing to learn, always one more concept to understand, always one more piece of clarity to get. And clarity never arrives, because clarity comes from motion, not thinking. This is where most people misunderstand escape. Escape is not a dramatic moment. It's not quitting your job overnight. It's not some cinematic leap. It's quiet, it's boring, it's repetitive. It's stacking leverage while nobody notices. It's building something small while everyone else is debating theory. It's making imperfect moves while smarter people are still planning. And that's why most people never do it, because it doesn't look like freedom at first. It looks like extra work. The system trains you to seek validation before results, approval before execution, certainty before movement. But leverage doesn't come from validation. It comes from accumulation. Tiny unfair advantages stacked over time. And the people who escape are rarely the loudest. They're the ones who stopped explaining and started building. Here's the final trap. Once you see the system, you think you're late. You think everyone else already figured it out. You think the window is closed. That belief is fatal, because the system resets every generation. Every technological shift creates new exits. Every attention shift creates new leverage, but only for people who move before consensus forms. Most people wait for permission disguised as proof. They want to see someone else succeed first, but by then, the window is already narrowing. So let me say this clearly. If you see the system and you're still stuck, it's not because you're incapable. It's because you're trying to escape mentally instead of structurally. You're trying to think your way out of a cage that only opens through action. Understanding is step one, but it is not freedom. Freedom begins the moment you accept imperfect movement over perfect understanding. The moment you trade clarity for leverage. The moment you stop asking if it will work and start asking how fast you can test it. And this is the part nobody tells you. The system doesn't break when you rebel. It breaks when you stop needing it, when your survival no longer depends on its approval, when your income no longer depends on its schedule, when your attention is no longer farmed. That's real escape, quiet, unannounced, uncelebrated, but permanent. Most people will watch this and feel something click. They'll nod, they'll agree, they'll feel seen, and then they'll go right back to observing. If that's you, nothing changes. But if you're ready to move from awareness to execution, you need structure. Not motivation, not hype. Structure. A system that turns insight into action. That's why I built the Money Logic Playbook. Not to teach you what the system is, but to show you how to step outside it piece by piece. No fantasies, no overnight nonsense. Just leverage, execution, and control. The link is there if you're ready, and if not, that's fine too. Just don't confuse awareness with freedom, because the system is full of people who understand everything and still never leave. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That means you're close. Subscribe if you want the next step, because the next phase isn't about seeing the system. It's about becoming someone it can't control. And that's where things get interesting.